Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the monthly meeting of the Knox County Planning Commission. I am Tim Hill, Chair of the Planning Commission, and I'll be conducting today's meeting. Assisting me today is the Knox County Planning Allie Ketron and the Planning Commission Attorney Tasha Blakeney. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'll now ask Mr. DeArmond to call the roll.
Commissioner Huber? Here. Commissioner Browning?
Here.
Commissioner Levinson is excused. Commissioner Boyer?
Here.
Commissioner Barger?
Here.
Commissioner Overton?
Here.
Commissioner Perez?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Higgins?
Here.
Commissioner Biggs?
Here.
Commissioner Daly?
Here.
Commissioner Gill?
Here.
Commissioner Midas is excused. Commissioner Adams?
Here.
Commissioner Hill?
Here.
It's 13 present, sir.
Thank you, Mr. DeArmond. Participating today are planning commissioners as well as planning staff and representatives of city and county agencies. The planning commissioners are citizens from the city and county who have been appointed by either city mayor or county mayor. We receive no salary and volunteer our time as a service to our community. Now a word about how discussion will take place. After each item is called, I'll read the staff's recommendation. On certain items, I'll call on staff to comment. At this time, the applicant may address commission or defer his or her opening remarks and allow any opposition to speak first. The applicant and those in support of the applicant will be given a total of 5 minutes to speak. I'll then ask for other comments from the floor. The opposition will also be given a total of 5 minutes to speak. If either side wishes to have an opportunity for rebuttal, you'll need to reserve time from your allotted 5 minutes. Applicants and citizens who registered to participate and are attending the meeting in person will be asked to come to the podium and share their name and address for the record, where their item is to be heard. Those who have registered to speak online do not need to sign in at the podium. If you need to speak on an agenda item and have not registered to do so in advance, please raise your hand when the item is read into the record. I'll then indicate when it's time for you to speak, and you can approach the podium at that time. You'll be asked to sign in at the podium as well as state your name and address for the record. If the Planning Commission decision on that item is appealed and we need to notify you, we cannot do so without your name and address. The Planning Commission may grant additional time for presentation of information. Speakers should limit their remarks to the facts of the case and should avoid repeating comments that have been previously presented to the Planning Commission. Because of the number of items that we typically have before us, groups in favor or opposed to an item have been asked to appoint a spokesperson to represent them. If you have any items that you'd like to make a part of the record, please submit those documents to knoxplanning.org/share. Please identify the file number and meeting date in your submittal. I hope you all have reviewed the agenda package. In addition to the agenda, there's information on the website related to how today's meeting will be conducted, as well as correspondence on individual cases. Many of the items we vote on require further action by the City Council or County Commission. For matters that are forwarded to City Council for final action, the applicant or their representative should be present at the meeting at which the request will be considered. For matters forwarded to County Commission for final action, particularly rezoning requests, the applicant or their representative must, and I repeat, must be present at the meeting at which the request will be considered, or the case, at minimum, will be postponed. Applicants will be notified of the meeting date. If you have any questions regarding the meeting date or process, please contact staff. Today's meeting will be conducted in order of the agenda. Please stand as you are able as Vice Chair John Huber leads us in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father, bless this community. Help to ensure the decisions made this afternoon are fair, legal, and in the best interest of the total community. As always, keep us mindful of the needs of others, especially those who are in sorrow, need, sickness, or any other adversity. Amen. pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
Next on the agenda are the postponement and withdrawal list. I'll read these lists separately. Under automatic postponements, item 20, Hayo Design and Development. Under automatic withdrawals, items 6A and B, 6A and B. Item 16. Now we'll move on to 30-day postponements. We have item number 8, Lynch Bus Lines. Item 19, R. Bentley Marlowe. Item 28, Masana Investments. Item 31, The Ridge at Neal's Landing. Are there any requests to postpone an item? Seeing no requests, Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have no 60-day postponements and we have no 90-day postponements. Under withdrawals from the table, we have item 1, Bradley Lake Lane, formerly known as Spring Lake Farms, Phase 3. Any request to withdraw an item? Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Huber, and that was seconded by Commissioner Adams. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have no tablings. Excuse me. I've been prompted here that we do have a tabling. Item 21.
Yeah, Scott Davis, P.O. Box 11315, respectful request to table item 21, please, sir.
All right, Mr. Davis, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other requests? Okay, so item 21 to be tabled. We have a motion from Commissioner Barger, seconded by Vice Chair Huber. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Items be removed from the table. We have none. Consent list. Do we have any recusals? Next on the agenda is the consent list, which is composed of items marked with a C. These items are considered non-controversial and are voted on all at once in order to save time. Items are listed in order they appear on the agenda. Please listen carefully. Can you all hear me okay? Is this mic working? Okay. Please listen carefully. Once an item is approved as part of the consent list, there will be no further discussion on it. I will repeat. Once an item is approved as part of the consent list, there will be no further discussion on it. And I only repeat that because from time to time we have someone wait through the whole meeting wanting to discuss an item and it was voted on consent. I'll start with the list. Item 2, approval of January 9, 2025 agenda. Item 3, approval of item 3, approval of December 12, 2024 minutes. Item 5, Rebecca Jane Justice, City of Knoxville. Item 6C, North American Islamic Trust, Inc. Item 9, Jim Hatfield. Item 10, Kingston Court, LLC. Bear with me just a minute. I mentioned item 10, Kingston Court LLC. Item 11, Franco Iracos. Item 14, Koji Properties LLC. Item 15, Amy Sherrill, Benefield Rectors. Item 17, Tai Cho New Season Properties LLC. Item 18, Candace Keogh. Item 22, final plat for Honey Oak Subdivision Unit 3. Item 23, final plat for Honey Oak Subdivision Unit 4. Item 24, Benchmark Associates, Inc. Item 26, Paul Blake. Item 27, Stephen Clare. Item 29, Molly Hughes. Item 34, Stan Hines. Item 35, Georges H. Brandon. Item 36, Dale Akins. Item 37, Alexis Profit. Item 38, Robin Askew. Item 39, Stephen K. Maddox. Are there any requests to remove an item from the consent list? And I heard a couple of folks.
Yes, item 10, please.
Item 10. And was there another request?
17.
Item 17.
I came to speak in favor of item 9, but it's going to get approved.
Okay, all right. So we have item 10 and item 17, a request to be removed from the consent list. Any other requests? Chair will entertain a motion to approve consent items as read and adding item 10 and item 17.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Huber. Okay, seconded by Commissioner Anderson. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, 10 and 17. Item 7, is that what you
Item 7.
got? All right,
Because everything on 6 got moved.
okay.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is item number 7. Applicant is Anthony Bryant. Location, southwest corner of the intersection of Callahan Drive and Campbell Lane. Approximate size of the tract is 21,661 square feet. Present plan and zoning designation, medium-density residential office, and RN1 single-family residential neighborhood. Proposed plan designation is Callahan Drive Mixed Use Special District. Existing land use, agriculture, forestry, and vacant land. This will require 3 motions. Staff recommendation, motion 1, deny the MUSD NWC-1 land use classification because it does not meet the criteria for a plan amendment. Motion 2, deny the MUSD NWC-1 land use classification because it does not meet the criteria for a plan amendment. That's regarding the 1-year plan. And motion 3 regarding rezoning, deny the CG1 district because it is incompatible with adjacent development and access conditions. Is the applicant present? Yes. All right. Do we have opposition? Any opposition? Would you like to comment on the case? Okay, all right. Commission? Let's see here. All right, Vice Chair Huber.
So I guess, Mr. Bryant, you don't want to make any comments at all, or are you still in favor of the zoning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I took a pretty hard look at this, and I totally understand where staff's coming from with the new land use plans that we've recently approved, and we've got a lot of rules that we have to abide by now to change the sector plans, but really in looking at it, Nick, do you mind? I guess you've got the zoning. Can you pull up the zoning side of it though, not just the future land use maps? So, as I drove out there and looked at this property, zoom out a little bit if you don't mind. That corridor, I understand that it's that section of it in the middle has been designated as office and mixed use, but I really feel like the corridor, since the plan was created, not the land use plan, but the sector plan was created several years ago, I really feel like it's changed. I mean, it's a heavy commercial corridor all the way down through there from the interstate all the way over to Clinton Highway. There are some residential uses. I know KCDC has Callahan Flats going on the other side of the road. I really feel like, office mixed use would be better going up Old Callahan, not just staying on the main corridor of Callahan, because you can see, it's a mixed bag between city and county. The city and county line runs in and out of there, but I think it's pretty consistent with, between the industrial and commercial. You can see all the red and then the purple with the industrial right down through there. I just feel it would be appropriate to change it because of since the sector plan was created, I think that has really gone heavy commercial all the way down in between two major thoroughfares. So I don't really have any issue whatsoever, with changing that. Under the road's 75, it's a divided highway. It's 75 feet wide in front of it, surrounded by CA and CB, borders CH2 and industrial in the area. The traffic count in the area is somewhere between 15,000 and 20,000 15 and 20,000 cars a day. So I really don't see any issue with changing it to CB1. Was it the commercial
CG1.
CG1? My apologies. But open for discussion if anybody has any other thoughts about it.
Commissioner Adams.
I guess one question I have is, this is a budding RN1.
Yeah, and I saw that in the staff report where there are three houses in the back, and it's just one little road. But it's hard for me, again, if you zoom out in that and look at it from 10,000 feet, as they say, I don't think that, and I'm not trying to take away from those three homes, but you can't let three single-family homes that have been completely surrounded by heavy commercial, it doesn't set the tone. You can say there's residential there, and there is, but it's not setting the tone. It's not a residential area whatsoever. And, and I drove out there and waved at one of the neighbors when they drove down the little road there, accessing their house, and they didn't seem to have any issues with it. I mean, the sign's been posted out there for a long time. I don't know if staff, Ms. Hillman, did you get any calls from anybody, or?
I did not.
Okay, yeah, my point is, there's one way in and one way out, of that. There's a short street. They haven't said anything. There's no comments online with regard to that. I think all of it should go commercial back through there, and I think it will.
But
eventually.
CH, doesn't it? I can't see the,
Yeah, CH2 next door.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's effectively the same zoning request outside of some dimensional standards, between CH1 and CH2. It's an extension of the commercial.
The request is for CG.
CG, I apologize. I keep, just the commercial side, yeah, the CG. The commercial highway could be, even more intense, I think, so. I'd be for it if there's any other questions.
Is that, okay, we have Commissioner Anderson.
I think I agree with everything Commissioner Huber is saying. One question I have, the Campbell Lane is a private road. And I know in our agenda review meeting, there was some talk about, could there be an additional curb cut? And I'm assuming that that's a TDOT issue, but with it being a private driveway, if that ends up being used as access to a commercial establishment on this parcel, how is that going to work as far as, the homes behind it having to potentially pay for that or pay for part of the maintenance of that? And just wonder if that's something we should.
Mr. Freeze, would you like to comment on the access? As far as the access requirements?
Yeah, it'd just be it. So they would be allowed to access typically either Callahan Drive or Campbell Lane. There may be some sight distance issues on Callahan. There's a bit of a crest of a hill to the southwest there. So if they wanted to access Callahan Drive, they would need to make sure that that's not an issue. Also, there is a bit of topography that may be a challenge to access Callahan Drive if that was what they wanted to do. So I think in my opinion, it makes more sense to access off of Campbell, just sight distance and the ease of grading, but that wouldn't necessarily be a requirement.
Would that road need to be improved?
I would have to look a little closer. If it's less than 20 foot wide, it would probably need to be widened to their driveway just to allow for safe two-way directional traffic.
It's currently 11 feet wide.
Yeah, it's definitely a substandard
So,
situation, and they would, engineering, I would assume, would pick that up and require that when it comes through.
Commissioner Higgins?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Huber on this. You know, I think it is a pretty appropriate extension and continuation of what's there. The current sector plan already has it a higher intensity designation. And, you know, I think if we were talking about the parcels at the end of this lane, that might be a different situation. But, you know, they have the control. If it needs to be widened, they can give up their property to make that happen. And you know, I am very confident that even though it is a small and underdeveloped access, engineering will require it to be, you know, safe and appropriate for whatever the use is. So, yeah, I just want to say I agree with the thought that it seems like an appropriate request.
All right. Chair will entertain a motion if we don't, Commissioner Adams.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear the way that this conversation is going, and just want to ask, since the staff recommendation was for denial, just to have on the record what kind of confirmed buffer or border there would be for the property that is abutting this parcel.
So the buffer yard regulations in the landscape article require a Class B buffer currently for a non-residential district abutting a residential district. So that would be a minimum width of 20 feet.
Vice Chair Huber.
I'd like to go ahead and take a stab at all these motions.
Okay, let's start with the sector plan.
Yeah. So I would like to make a motion to approve the MU-SD Northwest NWC-1 Callahan Drive Mixed Use Special Use District Land Use Classification because it does meet the criteria for a plan amendment. And I know we've got to have two here, so you know, my thoughts are the conditions are changing in that area. As I'd mentioned before, I mean, it's really, since the sector plan was done, it really has gone a lot more commercial, so I think that has changed in that area.
So I don't think you need two for the city, Vice
For
Chair.
the city, oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought we were, I got two anyway.
Okay.
My apologies.
Throw it at us.
Yeah, but it has changed down through there, and right, and this is the county, I was referring to that, but, yeah, I think that, that should cover it. It's changed down through there, and I think it should be commercial.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the MUSD NWC-1 land use classification by Vice Chair Huber, and that was seconded by Commissioner Higgins. How about further discussion? Ms. Hillman, or is that your line? Okay. Any other comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Make a motion to approve the MU-SD NWC-1 Callahan Mixed Use Special District Land Use Classification because does meet the criteria for a plan amendment as stated in the first motion.
Second.
We have a motion to approve MUSD NWC-1 as it relates to the one-year plan amendment, seconded by Commissioner Higgins. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the CG1 General Commercial District because it is an extension of the adjacent land use.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Huber, seconded by Commissioner Higgins to approve CG1 district because it is a natural extension. All right. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is item 10. The applicant is Kingston Court LLC. Location, northwest corner of the intersection of Kingston Pike and Kingston Court. Approximate size of tract, 19,120 square feet. Present zoning is RN1 and hillside protection. Zoning requested, RN2, hillside protection. Existing land use, agriculture, forestry, and vacant land. Staff recommendation is to approve the RN2 district because it is consistent with the sector plan and surrounding development. Is the applicant present? Yes, sir. All right. Do we have any opposition? Yes, sir. We do have opposition. Would you like to speak first or defer and let the opposition speak?
I'll let them speak first.
Okay. If you'll please state your name and address.
Tyler Thomas, it's 319 Kingston Court. I am the property right next door to it. Just wanted to start this with just by saying, appreciate you guys for, taking the time to listen to me. And, Matthew and I talked last night and, I was very appreciative of him coming by and explaining kind of his vision for things. But I do want, kind of the neighborhood's perspective to kind of be heard as well on this. It's not that we are 100% against it per se. Our preference is definitely to not have 3 houses built in what is really just single-family residential where it's at right now. And if you look at the map, it's, if you zoom out a little bit, right across the street, there is, apartment-style houses. But, those are right across the street, right? They're not towering over the houses currently where we're at on a hill that elevates them further. On our side of the street, this property also butts up to, I believe that's a historic house that's right behind it, as well as a historic Westwood mansion that's also a museum. So, there is, some, I guess, general just appeal of the area, right? A lot of just single-family homes, and I think our preference is to not have 3 properties where, one would be. For us, that's, 3 times the residents, it's 3 times the visitors, it's 3 times the holidays, 3 times the parties. Parking becomes a consideration. Currently, if we have guests over on our street now, people will park on the street a little bit and it's fine. It doesn't get anybody's way. But, if you have that and it starts to really, jam up the street, right? It's a consideration that we all kind of need to think about. Could be hard to get out on Kingston Pike. But with all that being said, I think our general approach is, we're open to hearing it, but, I think we want to kind of keep the aesthetic of the area definitely as, if it does pass, as kind of, in consideration, right? And that would be privacy, probably a buffer from the road as well. And I think that's kind of, you're on the same page with that as well, but, we would want something a little bit more formalized in that too, if that's possible.
Thank you for your comments, Mr.
Yep.
Thomas.
Thank you.
Okay, so Matthew Thompson with Kingston Court. So as he said, it sits right across from LaRue condos, or the subdivision across, okay? So when this subdivision, I don't know how old it is, it's gotta be 50 years plus. Kingston Pike is not what it used to be, right? It is a very busy road down through there. And when we're looking at it, we're like, what does fit the look and feel of Kingston Pike, LaRue, the new subdivision going down the road? So and what we want to do is match. When he mentioned the mansions beside the historical mansions, the brick and the tone we're going to sit, it's going to match that. It's going to be, and I showed him some pictures yesterday, kind of laying out what we plan to do. It's going to be a nice setup. I don't know if it's going to be 2 or 3 or what our proposal would be. As far as parking, we'll meet the code requirement for parking, and make sure that the parking can sit within those lots, not out in the subdivision as they do today. Okay, so we'll be able to address that need. But I think it really fits. Our look, what we're going for fits. How that lot is laid out goes right on the sidewalk. You can hop right on the sidewalk, go down to the greenway. You can use public transportation. It really fits the current setup of the urban Knoxville area. So that's our feedback, and everything that Tyler shared with us, we're definitely taking into consideration and we'll build into the plan. But yeah, that makes sense. But any
Thank you.
questions for me?
Commission?
I do have one question. So where would you be accessing if you'd subdivided into 2 or 3 or however many?
Kingston Court. So you wouldn't want to attempt to come off Kingston Pike, it's just too busy. So you would come off Kingston Court, do a 26-foot driveway.
A common driveway?
Yeah,
to that?
common driveway going down behind the units, paver-style driveway, something of that sense. We are going to do a privacy wall between the two properties, because I know that was a request of theirs, and matching the brick. And we're going to try to do something to tie into the serpentine wall. That's one reason we, that very attractive to that piece is that wall, and do something along that way. So we got some good plans for it, for sure.
Commissioner Adams?
When you said a privacy wall between the two properties, were you talking about your parcel and the opposition's parcel?
That's correct. Really both. So yes, I was talking about that one. So a privacy wall between the two of us, because that, they mentioned that, and it would be a nice look. And the second piece is that as you're up on Kingston Pike there, those historical mansions have that serpentine wall. I'd like to tie into that and keep that feeling going, because it has a nice presence. It really dresses Kingston Pike up there, and we want to match that to the best we can. Of course, that's quite old, but it's sharp looking.
Just, I guess, a follow-up question for me. I'm just trying to understand your vision, too. Are you going to face the houses towards Kingston Pike, or would they
Correct.
be facing?
The units
Okay.
will be facing Kingston Pike.
So it'd be
as
more
you
like
drive-
a-
Yeah, you'll have LaRue on this side,
Yeah.
and you would have Kingston Court on this side, and they'd face each other.
Right, more like an alley-type
That's correct.
rear
Yes.
entry
Yep.
garage.
Commissioner
Sorry,
Adams?
just one more. I'm trying to remember what LaRue's, I'm familiar with the serpentine wall that you're talking about, but on the opposite side of the street, what LaRue's,
They're an RN3.
no, I understand
okay.
that, but the entranceway,
Oh, it's gorgeous. They have a gated
Thank you.
community.
That's what I was, yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's really sharp, yeah.
So there's landscaping there and the wall as well?
Yes, yeah. And we're gonna try to match that best we can, for sure. Looks great.
Chair will entertain, we have Commissioner Browning.
Oh, I was just going to say that, thank you, Commissioner Hill. I was just going to say, I think the developer has said all the right things. I'm really familiar with that area, and I think that vision's great. At the same time, I do appreciate the opposition and the developer kind of working together, addressing, those concerns. Having said that, I would like to make a motion, because I think staff got this one right for sure. And that would be to support the rezoning of R1 to R2.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Browning, seconded, but was that Commissioner Daly or Barger? Seconded by Commissioner Barger. We have some more lights here. Commissioner Gill.
Yes, thank you. I just want to point out at the beginning of the meeting, it's sometimes helpful to remind ourselves as well as the audience. The opposition brought up the desire to see some more formalized, set in stone of what you guys are talking about. I just want to remind the commission and verify that when it comes to city zoning, we do not have the authority or the ability to precondition zoning changes. So as we approve this today, it is as is. And while we did have these wonderful conversations, and it's fantastic to hear that the developer is working closely with the neighborhood, I want the neighborhood to be clear that we don't have the authority to make him to carry these out. That's not in our purview.
It's an appropriate comment. All right. I see no other light, so let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is agenda item 12, Subdivision is Pleasant Village. Applicant developer is Scott Williams and Associates. Location north side of Pleasant Ridge Road and east side of Crest Park Road. Approximate acreage 10.3. Zonings are RN2 and former planned district. Existing land use, rural residential, agricultural forestry, and vacant land. Proposed use is a 41-lot, single-family detached subdivision. It requires no variances. This will require two motions. Staff recommendation is to approve the concept plan for 41 lots, subject to the 9 noted conditions. Motion 2 is related to special use. Approve the special use for up to 41 single-family houses, subject to the 3 noted conditions. Is the applicant present? Yes. All right, do we have opposition? Any opposition? Would the applicant like to make any comments? All right. Quiet group for the applicants this meeting. Okay, commission, any comments, motions?
I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendation.
All right. We have a motion to approve the concept plan for 41 lots, subject to the 9 conditions by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Vice Chair Huber. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Chair will entertain a motion related to special use.
I'll make a motion to approve the special use per staff recommendation.
We have a motion by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Vice Chair Huber, to approve the special use for up to 41 single-family houses, subject to the 3 noted conditions. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is agenda item 13. Applicant Damon Falconer. Location, north side of Mineral Springs Avenue, east of North Broadway. Approximate size of tract, 1.37 acres. Zoning is RN1 and hillside protection. Existing land use is agricultural forestry and vacant land. Proposed use, 2-family dwelling. This will require one motion. Staff recommendation is to deny the request for a 2-family dwelling in the RN1 district because the development does not meet the location criteria of the 1-year plan. Mr. Falconer, would you like to speak? And do we have any opposition? We do have opposition. So would you like to go first or defer? Okay, so would the opposition like to speak? All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Higdon. I live adjacent to this property on 2811 Mineral Springs Avenue, adjacent to the east. I also hold title and deed to an easement across this property, 30 feet. It provides me the only vehicle access I have to my garage in the rear of my property. So I will be directly affected by this. That is my driveway, my daily driveway. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I'm concerned with the proposed use and its adverse effects on the community. It's inconsistency with the street character, and I think it would directly impact in a negative way my property. I appreciate the staff's recommendation to deny this. None of the 8 location criteria for putting a duplex in this zone have been met. I think that indicates some of the issues at hand here. I feel like the 1-year plan and these location criteria, as a planner myself, provide important guidance to development in the city. They provide homeowners like me and community members some certainty and comfort when it comes to avoiding arbitrary and patchwork development, and they address potential land use conflicts. So in my view, this proposal for a duplex results in a discrete land use issue that is of primary concern to me, and I think it's inappropriate for this zone. This would create a scenario in which 3 households share a single driveway in an RN1, not to mention presumably involving a fourth party being the property owner and developer of a duplex. I don't feel that having that situation where multiple parties are sharing a driveway is appropriate here. I feel like it creates potential land use conflicts, the kind of intensity of use, the density issue that I don't think is appropriate in RN1. I've known, given my situation for a long time, that one day I might be sharing a driveway with another family, but I didn't foresee the potential for multiple families. As I said, I have a hard time imagining multiple parties plus a fourth owner, manager, dealing with the day-to-day issues of one driveway, whether it be maintenance or simply parking and being in the way or drainage and such. I feel it's an example of a conflict that's not appropriate in an RN1 here. So I'd like you to please consider this circumstance for me. It creates quite an awkward one, one that I'm stressed about. The potential for conflicts and problems in the future are there. I just think it's not appropriate that a homeowner in an RN1 should be put in this type of situation. So I ask for your consideration there. Finally, the site plan shown and provided today doesn't accurately reflect, it was updated the other day, it doesn't accurately reflect the 30-foot easement that is held. It doesn't show that the easement that's shown would require modification of the easement. And there's a statement towards the bottom that says that the area within the existing easement is over the required 15,000 square feet. By my understanding, the area shown here assumes the modification of the easement. And so as it's currently existing, the easement doesn't seem to be depicted accurately here, and I think it's not based, what that shows is not based on the existing easement held by me. So to the extent to which this plan informs your decision today, please note that. Again, I appreciate the staff's help and recommendations. The location criteria are there for people like me to ensure impacts aren't forthcoming on such decisions like this. And so please consider my concerns when you make your decision, and please deny this proposal. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Higdon. Mr. Falconer, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you all for volunteering your time and being here today for us. I do want to address Mr. Higgins' concern. He mentioned about that would be 3 families sharing that driveway. Of course, right now that driveway is not paved. And of course, as we develop that duplex, he would have a paved driveway. He actually has a main driveway. If you put up that other picture again, he has a main driveway on the other side of the property. So that's the driveway we're talking about that he's speaking of it's a one car, I'm going to call it a shop or a shed back there in the back. So he would have better access to it than he has right now.
Go ahead.
And so we looked at this area and feel like it's, as the staff has noted, it's consistent with the adopted plans. The use is in harmony with general purpose and intent of this zoning. And it's compatible with the character of the neighborhood. We've got apartments, multifamily apartments across the street and some close by. So we feel like it's a reasonable request to put a duplex on this piece of property and develop that right-of-way, that easement, so he would have a paved easement also, as well as my client have a paved easement to the new duplexes. And we worked with the staff very well. I enjoyed working with Samuel, and to get the criteria for a duplex to be carefully done with the amount of fenestration and all those things. So we put together a proposal for you all to look at and approve if it's your will. Thank you.
Thank you. Samuel, I'm going to ask, or someone on staff, I think Samuel can do it. Is there any way to pull up the 8 criteria? It refers to the criteria not being met, the location criteria.
These are mentioned in the one-year plan on page 29 of the plan, I believe. And not on the PDF, but 29 of the plan.
You care to read those all for us?
Duplexes may be permitted in low-density areas where their development will not significantly affect the service demands or aesthetics of the area. Within areas designated for low-density residential use, duplexes should be allowed where one or more of the following conditions exist. The conditions are: the proposed site is located on a collector street. Development of the duplex would provide a desirable buffer between residential and non-residential uses. The site is in an area having a gross density exceeding 5 dwelling units per acre. The site is in an area which has experienced a significant loss of housing but is still desirable for residential use. The site is a part of a planned residential development. Conversion of a detached house into a duplex should be permitted. So this speaks to conversions, it's not applicable here. And the last 2 items relates to duplexes in medium density housing. I'm sorry, the next one. And the last one is duplexes may be used in some instances as a buffer between detached housing areas and more intensive non-residential uses.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. The reason I asked him to read those, I read them the other day as I was looking at this case, and I thought, it seems like you could argue a case that somebody doesn't want duplexes, that they wrote it just to exclude duplexes. But having said that, we do have criteria that we need to go by. But what I would suggest is that, we talk with our planning and see if we can readdress some of this location criteria moving forward. And any comments that you guys want to express related to that would probably be helpful. So, anyway, commission comments? Commissioner Adams.
I just have a question about the easement. I'm unclear on that issue as presented by the opposition and the applicant. So if Samuel, if you could speak to the easement issue.
Yes, so the easement going through the property serves the lot at the rear that's owned by the same owner and the property to the east. The site plan that we received last Friday is inaccurate, but it does not change the easement line. This is a legal recorded easement. Approval or denial of this case does not change the easement line. The property meets the minimum lot size requirement of 15,000 square feet for a duplex in RN1 without the easement. So no issues with the easement.
I'm just still a little fuzzy, and I think I'm being influenced by what we heard. The road of question is currently owned by one person, correct?
But he's granted an easement, as I understand it, so he has the right to traverse.
So he has granted an easement to the new property? No. Help me.
So this is an existing easement that goes through the subject parcel we're talking about, and currently only one property is using the driveway. But other properties have legal access through this, such as the rear property line that is undeveloped. The issue we heard is that the easement is not drawn accurately on the site plan, which is true, but the property has over 44,000 square feet, excluding the easement. So it is well above the minimum lot size requirement of 15,000 for a duplex.
Okay, so I'm going to say it back to make sure I got it. The applicant is the person who has allowed easement access, and the opposition is currently using that easement access and is concerned about the increased usage of that easement and how that will impact him. But the parcel owner is the person who has the actual ownership of that roadway and is allowing access to the opposition. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Anderson.
I'm struggling with this one a little bit because when I read the staff report, I was just confused because it seemed like everything that was in there said, yeah, okay, this should be allowed, except for the one-year plan. And so when I went back and I looked at the one-year plan, and it talks about what should be in a low density residential, it mentions duplexes, and of course, we know that duplexes are allowed on, I guess, special use for RN1. And so then I went and I looked at the, what was up there a minute ago, and I think Chairman Hill is correct. It seems like it was written to just basically not allow duplexes. I mean, for one thing, low-density residential sounds like it's not supposed to be on collector streets, but we're saying we can do a duplex in that if it's on a collector street. We're not supposed to have, we're supposed to have less than 6 units an acre in low-density residential, and we can do a duplex in low-density residential if it exceeds 5 units an acre. So, and again, then the other criteria I think is more subjective. But I don't, you know, in my role up here, I don't know what to do with that with the one-year plan because I know that it's not necessarily something that we have the authority to amend. Tell me if I'm wrong there, but so. And then, so I guess that's one question is how do we overcome, if we wanted to approve this use, how would we overcome that? And second, I don't agree that with opposition that this isn't in the character. There's 2 other duplexes on this street in the same zoning, and it is across the street from I guess a more intensive zoned property. To me, the easement issue is not really relevant to our discussion. But I guess my primary question is what can we do about it being in conflict with the one-year plan?
Let's bring in Counselor Blakeney.
Right now, as the rules exist as they exist, right?
Right.
So you know that, and that's obviously the point of your inquiry. What can you do when there is what you perceive to be either a conflict or perhaps a modification that might be appropriate is to provide feedback to staff and to undertake an effort based on what you're seeing in terms of practice and what you're seeing in the community about development trends, so that if you want to consider projects of this nature, applications of this nature in a different way, then you have the ability to modify the rules. You are right, they exist as they exist now, and this is on special use because that's how this currently exists, the framework exists. It doesn't mean that you're stuck with that forever, but that is the matrix that exists at the moment. Does that help?
It does. So I guess, and this may not be something that we can answer, but where does that leave the applicant?
I'm gonna let you answer that, but can someone answer, when was the last time the comprehensive land use plan was updated?
Well, the one-year plan is updated annually, and it will come before you all in March for its annual update where it could be amended. Staff can also be instructed to look at certain amendments right now before we, as we're going through this kind of public review process. 2003 was when the general plan was first adopted.
Okay.
And it's my understanding that we are going to be reviewing the general plan. I mean,
This year, right? Isn't that right? And maybe roll some of this into the land use plan, Ms. Ketron?
It's not on our current work program, but we would look to the next work program to consider that. So in the next fiscal year would be,
So after July 1st.
we would potentially be looking.
Okay. But the one-year plan we could address in March.
Yes, so there is a draft one-year plan that just got posted today on our ongoing projects page on knoxplanning.org. There are 2 public meetings that are going to be put out at the end of the month to discuss potential changes, but currently there are no substantial changes proposed at this time.
I think if you all made a recommendation for us to look at this, we would then, as staff, look at what that timeline might be and how it could potentially align with our work program, and we would come back to you all with more information on a timeline.
Mr. Falconer, any thought about a postponement?
I think a postponement may be in order. I don't think my client would mind waiting till March.
Chairman Hill, I had a question.
Go ahead, Vice Chair Huber.
I guess this maybe gets back to with the other questions. I guess we've got a one-year plan that has, some rules spelled out in it, but I did see a lot of, it should be this, and I didn't see a lot of shall, so I don't know if that, the whole thing is on a special use. That's why it's here, is for us to review it and look at it and say, is this appropriate or not appropriate? That's where I'm struggling. I get if you read it by the word and the letter of the law, but that's what this whole body is about making decisions about if it's an appropriate use or not appropriate use. With Mr. Higdon, I appreciate everything you're saying about it, but I do feel like it's an appropriate use. It's right across the street from Helen Ross McNabb in a multifamily situation that has sidewalks in front of it and been developed at a high density versus even the other duplexes that were mentioned down the street. I personally went out and measured the street today. Although it's not a collector or an arterial, it's 19 feet wide, which is wider than a lot of roads that we approve heavier density stuff on. So I guess that's my question. I don't know. Is it, the one-year plan is it's a guideline to me, but this body, I think, I'm asking, I guess, through a vote, we make our opinion known.
Yeah, this body, of course, is going to exercise its judgment and discretion. You're going to look at the application, you're going to look at the materials, the applicable standards and guidelines, the rules that apply, and then it is your job to exercise that discretion in rendering your vote. So that is certainly your job. And again, as you note, it is here on a special use. That's the standard that you review this application under.
Commissioner Adams.
I appreciate what Commissioner Huber was saying, because we are supposed to make decisions. But I also appreciate what Chairman Hill was seeming, and Commissioner Anderson about, let's look at these, the actual guidelines that we have in front of us to make a more significant change, so that we're not basically setting a precedent, even though it's a special use, that if we do this, kind of bucking the guidelines that we've been given and the staff recommendation, and we can do that, but then we set a precedent, and do we keep doing that, or do we go to the core of the issue, which it seems like that's what was brought up, and it seems like there's some interest in doing that, and that there's a willingness to postpone.
I guess my thought is, I don't know why we can't do both. It definitely needs to be addressed because there is some confusion in there. But to me, this really, it's inside the 640 corridor. And we've had ad nauseum discussions about missing middle. Now, I know this isn't in one of those missing middle areas technically, but, I mean, it's a duplex, it fits. I get it that there's some gray area there, but that's, again, in my opinion, that's what we're here for. I do agree that we need to move forward and update and be more clear in the one-year plan, but I don't think that precludes us from moving forward and approving this today.
So,
Yes, Commissioner Biggs.
Yeah, I just had a question going back to the kind of language as it's currently written. I could see this proposal meeting one of the potential conditions at the end there, that duplexes may be used in some instances as a buffer between detached housing areas and more intensive non-residential uses. Is the Helen Ross McNabb Center that's mentioned, which directly abuts the property across the street, does that not meet that criteria of a more intense non-residential use? And if that's the case, does that not meet at least one of the criteria for a duplex? Because it would serve as a potential buffer between that area and some of the surrounding detached houses?
I think if it was on the same side of the street and directly abutting this parcel, you could make that argument, but since it's on the opposite side of the street, it's not really a buffer between it, because the street already, it's just not. So like if you were looking at a special use for maybe the property that's across the street from the subject property, as a buffer between adjacent uses, yes, but I think that in this case, it's not really buffering anything on the opposite side of the street.
Okay, I guess I personally might feel that, 2811 and the properties to the northwest would be partially buffered, but I can understand that interpretation.
Commissioner Anderson.
If one was to make a motion, how would they address this not being consistent with the requirements of the one-year plan?
Counselor?
I think you would want to state on the record in making your motion the basis for it and your interpretation and application of the rules that you are applying and how it is that you are coming to your decision or supporting your decision based on your interpretation.
Vice Chair Huber.
I'll defer to Commissioner Anderson if you want to make a motion.
Oh, no, seniority.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I was hoping just to second it, but, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the request for a two-family dwelling in RN1 single-family residential neighborhood district because it does meet the location criteria of the one-year plan being changed. And that, again, in my opinion, the road's 19 feet wide. There's multifamily directly across the street from it. There are multiple duplexes on that same street. So for those reasons, I feel it should be approved.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Huber to allow, let's see, what are we doing here? To allow the two-family dwelling in the RN1 Special District. Seconded by Commissioner Barger. Do we have any other lights? And I think there is, is it fair to say there's a unanimous desire for the planning department to review the location criteria for the one-year plan? Okay. All right. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have one no. Motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. On to item 17. Applicant Tai Cho, New Season Properties LLC, location north side of Tania Lane, west of Thomas Road. Approximate size of tract, 15,100 square feet. Zoning RN1, existing land use, agriculture, forestry, and vacant land. Proposed use is a two-family dwelling. Staff recommendation, approve the request for a two-family dwelling in the RN1 district, subject to the three noted conditions. Is the applicant present? Do we have opposition? Any opposition? Okay. Would the applicant like to go first or defer to the opposition? Okay. Would the opposition like to speak? If you'd please state your name and address, please.
My name is Toshiba Hinton. I am at 6301 Thomas Road. My concerns was just, I'm a first-time homeowner. I waited 4 years looking and searching for a house that's perfect for my family. I have 2 adopted kids. My smallest one is 7. He has autism. I don't know nothing about autism. I'm just learning with a 7-year-old. So it goes as we go. I just know he is really bad with noise. I'm sorry, I don't know nothing about this. I'm not
Take your
used to talking in
time.
front of people, but the noise of the hammering, the trucks, we live there. So, talking to Mr. Ty, hopefully all of that'll be going on in the morning time. He'll be at school. I'm just thinking about the people who might move in, partying. I don't know. I just know it took me 3 years to find the perfect neighborhood that I felt like was perfect for my family. And then now, it's changing. I moved into an elderly community for a reason. And we never know who we're going to get, which I know when you buy a house or whatever, people come, people go, people move in, people move out, people sell, people rent their homes. I'm just speaking up as a concerned parent. So we talked about some stuff and, hopefully it'll work out for the best. But I'm just here as being a parent of an autism child. So
Thank you for your comments. Would the applicant like to speak?
Tay Cho, 1140 Bell Pond Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee. I spoke with Sheba actually earlier when she raised her concern, and we spoke outside and had a good conversation. I was able to hear her out and where she's coming from, and want to do whatever I can to empathize and sympathize with that situation. The concern, I think, with the noise and whatnot, we'll obviously, it's a permanent process. We'll be working within the restrictions and the ordinances from the city as far as build time and whatnot. And as far as, the type of residents that she might be concerned about, as she alluded to, there's only so much that we can control about, what our neighbors do and don't do. But, hopefully our plan is to build as nice of a home as possible, to whether we sell it or rent it, to, bring in good tenants or occupants. And, she actually mentioned that her son is interested in getting the construction. So I said maybe this is a good opportunity for us to invite him in the process and have him check out the site along the way. And I'm hopeful that's an okay situation for everyone. So, and I'd be remiss to not mention she did hand me this letter as well, just to have it on record from another neighbor that has expressed concern. I just want to read it. We have lived here for 68 years. It is peaceful and quiet, good neighbors, etc., none of which wants traffic or noise. My grandmother, Margaret King Thomas, I'm not sure what the word is, this whole block, and we have tried to keep it as it is. It would be her wishes also. I'm 85, my husband 88. Please let us live in peace. Linda Thomas Whaley. So some concerns, some similar concerns there, but we plan to do whatever we can to assure that it'll be done in a clean process. So,
Thank you. Commission? Commissioner Adams?
I just want to say I appreciate this is like the third case now where there's been good dialogue between the applicant and the folks who may be impacted by the development. And I really appreciate hearing that. And I hope that that is a conversation that continues with the neighbors in that area. And just thank you for doing that. And I hope that both parties keep that up.
Commissioner Biggs?
I just had a question, I guess, for staff for my own edification, because the justification for this duplex is that it does provide a buffer, even though it is across the street. And I guess on the last one, I heard from staff that the reasoning that it wasn't meeting that criteria is because it was on the opposite side of the street from the more intensive use. And so I don't know if I'm mishearing or misunderstanding things, but I'm maybe just perceiving some discrepancies between these two cases, which seem pretty similar to me.
Mr. Hawk, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, so in this case, while there is a right-of-way present, the street is not built. So if you look at the aerial image, you couldn't see that there is a right-of-way in here. So we thought that with the higher intensity development potential of the highway commercial zone, this duplex would provide a buffer for the residential parcel to the northeast.
Okay, thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion. Commissioner Overton.
I mean, before I make this motion to approve, I want to totally acknowledge the concerns of the neighbors, and I'm not coming from a place of heartlessness whatsoever, because I think it's all valid, and I'm hopeful that y'all can work together. It seems like you already are establishing a good relationship, but unfortunately, like with land use, like Nick said, we can't condition things. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for a two-family dwelling in RN1, subject to the 3 conditions listed in staff report.
We have a motion made by Commissioner Overton to approve the request for a two-family dwelling in the RN1 district, subject to those 3 noted conditions, and that was seconded by Commissioner Higgins. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 25, the applicant is Thomas Burdette, location northwest side of Bell Road, northeast of Meadow Rue Trail. Approximate size of tract, 2.46 acres. Present zoning is agricultural. Zoning requested is low-density residential. Existing land use, rural residential. Staff recommendation, approve low-density residential zone because it is consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan and surrounding development. Is the applicant present? And do we have any opposition? Any opposition? Would you like to speak? All right. Commission. Chair will entertain a motion. Commissioner Anderson.
I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendation.
We have a motion by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Vice Chair Huber to approve the request for a two-family dwelling. No, excuse me, I got the wrong case here. Let's see here. To approve the low-density residential zone because it is consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan and surrounding development. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 30, applicant is Terry Romans, location west side of East Governor John Sevier Highway, north of Serene Cove Way. Approximate size of tract is 4.39 acres. Present zoning is agricultural, zoning requested, neighborhood commercial, and existing land use is agriculture, forestry, and vacant land. Staff recommendation is to deny the neighborhood commercial zone because the property is inconsistent with the intent and location criteria of the CN zone. Is the applicant present? Do we have opposition? Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, would the applicant like to speak?
I'm Terry Romans. I'm the engineer and surveyor representing Mr. Webb. I live at 1923 Hopewell Road, Knoxville 37920, just kind of east of that piece of property. Mr. Webb's owned the property for a long time, and you know he's wanting to do a commercial so he could probably do some type of storage because they're putting in a lot of houses beside it. They're doing a lot of houses on John Sevier. These folks, I think, will have access to the river. He can do a nice storage facility. a nice RV park, because the lots are small, they probably won't have a place to keep their boats. Mr. Webb's done a lot of commercial developments in South Knoxville. All his properties are nice, kept up, maintained. We actually talked to the neighbor across the street. She was happy with what we were gonna do. But I'll let him speak on his behalf, but that's really what, I mean, you're beside a treatment plant, and then you've got a large subdivision to the kind of southwest. They're putting in a large subdivision to the north of the property, and I just think what he's building would accommodate all the subdivisions that are going around him, and that's on the other end of John Sevier that's getting developed right now. But I can let Mr. Webb speak on his
All right,
part of it.
thank you.
Jimmy Webb, 585 Pickens Gap Road. I've done a lot of development on John Sevier, and I've been there a long time, and it's just, I try to just take the land and make use of it to apply with the community. And I'd really like the consideration of rezoning this, to be able to do something with the property other than just let the vacant land lay there. I have let KUB use it to do a laydown lot for all the fiber optics in South Knoxville. Just so they had some place to store their stuff, and they were putting gravel down and helped me take care of it. But I would really like the consideration of rezoning it to be able to do that and do some nice storage buildings, and none of my properties on John Sevier have ever had a problem. They're all mowed every week and maintained for the public to pull in and not be afraid to get out. And I appreciate you guys helping me.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
I would like to say one more thing.
Sure.
And I've talked to the developers that are developing above us just the other day. They don't have a problem with what we're doing. I think they think it would support the need for all the people that's gonna be living in those houses. And of course, we know all the guys at Knox Chapman, they're okay with it. I mean, you got a treatment plant beside you, so I mean, I think it would fit and look nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Warner, if you don't care, and I know we can all read the report here, but just for the public, would you just kind of summarize Planning Department's recommendation and maybe discuss some of the specifics of it?
Okay, there's 4 criteria that has to be met for rezoning. The second one, the proposed amendment shall be consistent with the intent and purpose of the applicable zoning ordinance. We felt this one was not met. So the CN zone is really intended to be in a walkable residential area, and part of that's with the development standards to include sidewalk development. Also, should be on a collector arterial. It's not an arterial. This isn't considered a walkable area. That was our main decision in that factor. And the storage facility he's referring to would be a use on review in this zone.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Higgins.
Thank you. Got a question and some comments. First, the question on John Sevier, this is for staff. John Sevier requires a 50-foot buffer here, correct?
The corridor study recommends that. Typically on John Sevier, we add a condition to include the 50-foot vegetated buffer. It's listed in one of the criteria if you want to add it.
And then just a comment, I brought this up at the agenda review. When you look at it in street view and when you drive out there, I mean, it already feels commercial. There's a treatment plant next to it, as the applicant mentioned. The lot itself, having been used by KUB, I mean, that's graded like a commercial lot. I think that if this was an application for a subdivision, we would probably be seeing a lot more opposition to it than what we've seen for this request to go commercial. And, I think even if it's not directly next to a commercial zoning, it is next to a commercial use and seems like a good extension of that. So I would be in favor of this.
Commissioner Anderson.
I agree with Commissioner Higgins. In fact, you had mentioned something in the agenda review about maybe what, if it wasn't related to utilities, what would that use be? And I think, I mean, and I can be proven wrong, I probably will, but the front section of that property, it looks like they're essentially using it as general office. I mean, I'm guessing based upon the parking that they have people come and go to pay bills and whatnot. And granted, that is an extension of them functioning as a public utility. But I find it interesting that in CN zoning, you could have a local government office. And of course, the public utility is carrying out a function that the government would otherwise have to do. So I don't think this is a stretch for this to be zoned CN. And I would support it as well.
Vice Chair Huber.
I would echo Commissioner Anderson and Higgins. When I drove out there and looked at it too, it does look like it's just, a nice little strip office in the front. But if you look right behind it, there's a massive water tank, sewage tank being held. There's a 2-story huge warehouse. And then beyond that is where they actually treat the sewer, on the river, So, I mean, this is not a light industrial use. I would almost see the neighborhood commercial as being a buffer, between what is being done there legally and the neighborhoods down through there. As far as the storage is concerned, we can look at that on a use on review. But and I get where staff is. It's ideal if we have the neighborhood commercial directly on a corner, but it's not a total requirement in my opinion. I just don't think it's in a problem in the area. I drove up and down through there. It's very industrial. That section of John Sevier has a tremendous amount of commercial and industrial all up and down it. But again, my main thing is there's a pretty heavy industrial type use right next door. I think it's appropriate to be neighborhood commercial. So with that, I'll just go ahead and make a motion to approve neighborhood commercial zone because it is consistent with the intent and location criteria of the CN zone.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the neighborhood commercial zone by Vice Chair Huber, and that was seconded by Commissioner Anderson. And I get the staff stance on this. However, I get how and understand how we can support this too. It's not an ideal neighborhood commercial, but I kind of looked at it as what's the harm being next to the kind of that business use of the public utility. But I'll let Commissioner Adams comment.
I just have a question about the design guidelines with neighborhood commercial and how those design guidelines get addressed if this is rezoned neighborhood commercial.
Ms. Warner, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can help.
Okay.
So the neighborhood commercial zone has landscape buffer yards for permitted uses and for other uses permitted on review. If it's a permitted use, that landscape buffer yard gets applied regardless, and that's just reviewed during permitting. So if it's a use on review, obviously, those buffer yards get applied, and you would see those at that time. Outside of that, the other uses permitted on review some of them do have design criteria. Self-storage in CN does have some minor design criteria that would be applied. If that helps them. Yeah.
So, and just kind of dovetailing with that, I don't think I could support this if it was a CA request. But as a neighborhood commercial request, it has so many restrictions inside of it already. It's got some approved uses, but they're very few. Most of it has to be through a use on review, just like the storage, if that's what happened. But it would be a little too intense for me if it was CA, but I'm very comfortable with CN.
Commissioner Biggs.
Well, I was actually just about to ask if CA would be a more appropriate use here, because if it doesn't meet the criteria of neighborhood commercial and there's CA not far down the road to the south, is that not a better use or a better, zoning designation for this space and the intended use, without kind of, I don't know, going against the intent of neighborhood commercial. So that was going to be sort of my question and proposal, is that would CA accommodate this use? And again, it's next to an industrial utility type space. So sounds like Commissioner Huber, you disagree that CA would be appropriate there, but curious if others have thoughts, or if staff would have viewed this differently had CA been the requested zone.
CA would require a plan amendment. This
Okay.
was the only commercial zoning that they could ask without a plan amendment.
I see.
Okay, we have a motion and Commissioner Gill.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to continue along this line. I think that I feel the same as been discussed. I think that this project works given the space that it's in. My concern is kind of mirroring what Commissioner Biggs is kind of alluding to, which is, are we setting ourselves up for a precedent-setting failure in the future when we now have a storage facility that's coming to us on use on review? Similarly, have we come off of another case where the 5,000 square foot rule became a fairly sore point of contention that was battered about quite a bit. It went to commission, came back to us over what constitutes 5,000 square feet in an individual building. We had some fairly clear guidance from the commission to us that, in fact, 5,000 square feet is the cap of that building, and now we're going to be considering a use on review in the future in which we have self-storage that 5,000 square foot self-storage facility makes absolutely no sense. So I'm in support of this project, but I feel like, in not taking the entire consideration here, and we're setting ourselves up for a use on review where we're then going to be trying to set a precedent yet again that you can get around the 5,000 square foot limit on CN, and that did not go that did not go as well the last time we had this conversation. So, I wonder if CA isn't the more appropriate zoning in there so that we're not setting that precedent. Not that I want to be process-oriented versus outcome-oriented. I'm in support of putting a self-storage here. I think that's an entirely appropriate use. I just don't want to set us up for another protracted battle over how we apply those guidelines.
Well,
Thank you for your comments. Vice Chair Huber,
just a comment to that, and the only reason, I've got some firsthand knowledge. I've actually developed storage in neighborhood commercial. And now, this is going to come down to an interpretation, which we had, there was some discussion on last time. But it was generally that the individual buildings had to be no more than 5,000 feet. So you could have multiple buildings, but each individual building of storage, you could have 30,000 feet. You have 6 buildings that are 5,000 square feet apiece. So at least that was my experience at what we've done in the past in neighborhood commercial.
Yeah, the CN, the self-storage requirements or supplemental regulations for self-storage in CN is a little bit, maybe throws a wrinkle in that 5,000 square foot total because it allows properties up to 5 acres in size, so you can't exceed 5 acres in size for self-storage facility. And then it says the footprint of any individual structure shall not exceed 5,000 square feet. So I think because the supplemental regulations for self-storage has some specific standards that are a little different than everything else, there might be a different interpretation on how that works for that particular use.
So is that by right or special use?
It's
Or
a
use on
on
review?
review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we would have I think there's some, under use on review, there's some uses that we would find inappropriate.
Yeah,
And I think the fact that the applicant is asking for neighborhood commercial, and it's less intensive, while it may not be a perfect fit, but if everything was black and white, they wouldn't need us, I guess, is the way I would see it. Commissioner Anderson.
So, I'm thinking now, thanks to you guys. So I guess my question to staff would be, so if the applicant wanted to build climate-controlled indoor storage, a 30,000 square foot building, it seems like they'd be better off to apply for permitted use under ag, because I don't think that would be permitted under CN.
So the indoor storage use in the agricultural zone is intended for personal use only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that answers my question.
Okay. All right, where are we? Where did we leave off? Do we have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second to approve. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next is agenda item 32, subdivision Copper Branch Place. The applicant developer is Robert Campbell and Associates. Owner is William Wilson. Location, southeast side of Bishop Road and Greenville Drive, southwest side of Pettigo Road. Approximately 4.68 acres. Zoning is planned residential up to 3 dwelling units per acre. Existing land use is agriculture, forestry, and vacant land. Proposed use, attached residential subdivision. Number of lots, 14. Will require one variance as well as alternative design standards. So this will, we're looking at 4 motions here. I'll start with the variance. Staff recommendations approve the variance to reduce the minimum intersection separation from 300 feet to 70.5 feet between Road A and Road E. Copeland Drive, based on the following evidence of hardships. A, the proposed spacing provides optimal sight distance and avoids an existing power pole. B, the existing topography, drainage features, utility locations, and sight distance limit the entrance location. C, approval of the variance is not anticipated to be detrimental to public safety, health, or welfare because the proposed spacing provides optimal sight distance. The Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works recommends approval of this variance based on the justification provided by the applicant. Motion 2, related to the alternative design standard. Approve the alternative design standard based on the justification provided by the applicant and recommendations of the Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works. Motion 3, related to the concept plan. Approve the concept plan subject to the 6 noted conditions. Motion 4, as it relates to the development plan. Approve the development plan for up to 14 dwelling units on individual lots, subject to the 2 noted conditions. Is the applicant present? Do we have any opposition? Any opposition? Would the applicant like to speak? No, sir. All right. Commission? This might be a record for quiet applicants. It seems to be working too, so. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Anderson.
So I guess we start with the first variance, is that right? Okay, so
Sure,
I'll make a motion
yes.
to approve the variance to reduce the minimum intersection separation from 300 feet to 70.5 feet between Road A and East Copeland Drive based on the evidence of hardship in the staff recommendation.
Of A, B, and C. Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Vice Chair Huber. I think we got one, but you pick one of the 2. Either one would be fine with me. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the alternative design standard based on the justification provided by the applicant and recommendations of the Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works.
Okay, motion 2 on the alternative design standard to approve. The motion was made to approve by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Commissioner Barger. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the concept plan subject to the 6 stated conditions.
We have a motion to approve the concept plan subject to the 6 noted conditions by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Commissioner Barger. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the development plan for up to 14 dwelling units on individual lots, subject to the 2 stated conditions.
We have a motion to approve the development plan for up to 14 dwelling units on individual lots, subject to those two noted conditions by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Commissioner Barger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is agenda item 33, subdivision 1413 Tipton Station Road, applicant developer, Masana Investments LLC, location south side of West Governor John Sevier Highway, north side of Tipton Station Road, and west side of Stout Lane. Approximate acreage, 27.37 acres. Zoning is planned residential with conditions up to 5 dwelling units per acre. Existing land use, agriculture, forestry, and vacant land. Proposed use, attached and detached residential subdivision. Number of lots, 137. This will require 4 motions. Motion 1, variance. Approve the variance to reduce the minimum vertical curve K value on Road A from 25 to 20 at its intersection with Governor John Sevier Highway based on the following evidence of hardships. A, there's a pronounced drop-off at the location of the request. B, the steep grades along Governor John Sevier Highway frontage were created by highway construction. C, approval of the variance is not anticipated to be detrimental to public safety, health, or welfare because the requested K value meets AASHTO and the TDOT standards. The Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works recommends approval of this variance based on the justification provided by the applicant. Motion 2, approve the alternative design standards based on the justification provided by the applicant and recommendations by Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works. Motion 3, concept plan, approve the concept plan subject to 19 noted conditions. Motion 4, development plan, approve the development plan for up to 137 dwelling units on individual lots subject to the 2 noted conditions. Is the applicant present, and do we have any opposition? We do have opposition. Would you like to speak or defer, Mr. Davis?
Yeah, Scott Davis, P.O. Box 11315, Knoxville 37939. I appreciate your all's time. We did meet with the neighbors and tried to address their concerns as much as possible. And here's what we have agreed to. We agreed there's a 50-foot buffer along John Sevier. We agreed to provide additional type B screening on the single-family portion of that. We agreed to sidewalks. We agreed to put the right turn lane in coming off of John Sevier. We agreed to the stub out to the adjacent property. We agreed to a greenway easement for a greenway that doesn't currently exist. We agreed to type B screening along Tipton Station Road. We agreed to no access to Tipton Station Road. We agreed that no houses would front Tipton Station Road. And we agreed to 2 pedestrian access easements to the proposed greenway, as well as the type B screening along Tipton Station Road. And I would respectfully request you all approve as per staff recommendation. Thank you.
All right. And would the opposition like to speak?
Thank you. Bob Thompson, 8136 Jonesboro Drive, Knoxville. I'm also with the South Dual Neighborhood Association and would like to limit the issue to the frontage along Tipton Station. Some of the conditions Mr. Davis just mentioned, some of those were imposed by County Commission as part of the rezoning, including, for example, the greenway easement. But one thing the neighbors asked for in addition would be a greater distance between the south end of the development and Tipton Station. So Mr. Davis met in December with Commissioner Kim Frazier and some of the neighbors, not the immediate adjacent landowners, but some of the nearby neighbors, excuse me. And Commissioner Frazier's understanding was that Mr. Davis agreed to a 100-foot non-developed area between Tipton Station and the end of the development. And I just spoke with him in the hallway, and apparently he didn't feel they did agree with that. So I guess perhaps a misunderstanding for what it's worth. But the reason that was asked for is when you're looking at complying with the comprehensive plan requirement to ensure the development is sensitive to the existing community character. The community character of this section of Tipton Station, it's really the heart of the historic and scenic area that is the whole reason that John Sevier Highway is designated as a scenic highway. This property it's only 600 feet from the beginning of the historic overlay district that surrounds John Sevier, the Marble Springs property. And it's of particular interest to our South Doyle Neighborhood Association because we have a long history of supporting this tradition around Marble Springs. We routinely pick up litter along Tipton Station right in that area. Several of our members have served on the board of the John Sevier Memorial Association, which is the nonprofit that runs Marble Springs day to day. So we have a lot invested in this area. And if you look at that stretch of road on Tipton Station, it's very low density, very rural in character. And that's the character that could be preserved, at least in part, by a larger setback between the development, excuse me, and the road. And some of the nature of the character, I submitted comments yesterday and attached a memo which we had sent to County Commission trying to elaborate on the nature of the neighborhood. And it's long, I'm sorry, I know you have a lot to read, but in summary, it is the heart of the scenic area. And even with the landscape screen, if you have the houses as close to Tipton Station as are shown in the proposed plan, even with the type B landscape, the landscape screen, which was required by County Commission as part of the rezoning, even with that screen, having so many 5, 6, 7 houses right along the road, it's simply not consistent with the character of the neighborhood. I was just, again, in the hallway, I talked to Mr. Davis and said, well, if you just took away a couple of those lots, like the two bottom there on the west side cul-de-sac, I think it's 77 and 78, even just taking away those two lots would go quite a way. It would go quite a ways toward preserving the character of the road there. And he pointed out, well, if you want to buy those lots, that's fine. And I do realize it would take a financial hit to give those up. But my understanding, though, is that a development like this would be feasible, financially feasible, even at 4 per acre. So again, that would be the request. And that's all. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Commissioner Anderson?
Oh, I didn't realize my light was on, but I will say something. So
Okay.
I guess the opposition's point, which I understand coming from them living in that area, but I guess I struggle with thinking we need to impose something other than what, our typical subdivision regulations would require. I get that maybe this area doesn't feel the same as it's going to feel with a new development in it, but I think that's mostly due to just age and not necessarily any formal plan for it to be that way. And again, maybe the project is feasible, maybe it's not if you take away units, but if the applicant's complying with subdivision regulations, I don't see why we need to impose caps on what he can or can't make.
Thank you. Commissioner Biggs?
I'd second Commissioner Anderson's comments, and I guess I also feel like if you look just to the west of where the property is along, Tipton Station and Newbert Springs Road, that there are other properties that front closely the road that, I don't have exact measurements of the proposed site plan, Yeah, looking kind of across from Marble Springs there in particular on, I guess that's Newbert Springs, you know, those are close to the road and those are existing houses. So I'm struggling a little bit with the idea that like other houses in similar proximity would be so out of character with existing conditions.
Commissioner Adams.
Thanks. I'm very pleased that these conditions were added at County Commission that we're looking at now. So I'm really glad that the case was looked at in those ways and those were added. I wish that if there had been a discussion between a county commissioner and an applicant, or that had been documented here. It's tough for that to come through as a comment and be able to work with that when there's already a specific number applied in the recommendations that came to us. That said, I think about the development on Murphy Road. And this, if you haven't been on commission too terribly long, you won't remember this one, but it came to us and there was an image showing where a buffer had been required on one side of the road, and on the other side of the road, the buffer had not been required, and it was dramatic. You had one side of the road that really felt contiguous with a lot of natural landscaping and just unchanged terrain, even though there was a large subdivision behind it. And on the other side, it just was denuded, and you really felt it. So that's what I think about when I hear the comments from the opposition about the desire for a buffer there and the impact that can have on the experience that someone has in that area, how they feel about it, and thinking about the advanced Knox plan and what that area is supposed to be like. So I'm glad that there is a 50-foot at least buffer that's required there. And wish that it was more, but I don't feel like I can push for that since that conversation happened. It's not something that came through on this, but just wanted to add some of that context.
Thank you. Vice Chair Huber.
Yeah, I'd actually like to commend Mr. Davis for meeting with all the neighbors and actually working out. It sounds like there's a lot of things that got worked out that they were looking for. Maybe you don't get everything, but I remember when this first came through, the big question was, and the big push was, don't access the property from Tipton Station Road. And I think they've done that. Yeah, they might want a buffer, but I think the biggest issue was don't have an entrance down there, funnel all the traffic back up to John Sevier Highway. And I think it's a good compromise. All the different things listed in the 19 conditions. I think it'll be a good way to go. And I think you got to be careful too about, just take a lot out here, take 2 lots out there. Goodness, I mean, I'm probably dating myself, but I remember I did a development back in 1999, and the cost for a road at that time per linear foot was $115 per linear foot. Fast forward to today, it's probably $1,300 a linear foot. You can see how much stuff's changed. Yeah, or more, right? It's incredible how much things have gotten. I know we've all looked at the inflation and lived a lot of that, but in the development community, it has been exponential, way more than eggs, so I'm just saying, I think we need to be careful when somebody says it's easy just to eliminate part of the development or things like that. But getting back to the heart of it, I think Mr. Davis has done a nice job in meeting with everybody and giving them 99% of what they want. With that, I'd just like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the variance to reduce the minimum vertical curve K value on Road A from 25 to 20 at its intersection with Governor John Sevier Highway based on the following evidence of hardship, A, B, and C, that were read by Chairman Hill earlier.
So we have a motion by Vice Chair Huber, seconded by Commissioner Daly. Seeing no other, do we have any other lights? I don't see any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the alternative design standards based on the justification provided by the applicant and recommendations of Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Chair Huber to approve alternative design standards based on the justification provided by the applicant and recommendations of Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works, and that was seconded by Commissioner Daley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the concept plan subject to 19 conditions.
Have a motion approved by Vice Chair Huber to approve concept plan subject to 19 noted conditions, seconded by Commissioner Daley. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And finally, I'd like to make a motion to approve the development plan for up to 137 dwelling units on individual lots, subject to 2 conditions.
We have a motion to approve the development plan for up to 137 dwelling units on individual lots, subject to the 2 noted conditions, and that was by Vice Chair Huber, and that was seconded by Commissioner Daley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Happy New Year, and thank you all for your time and your service. Thank you.
What else we got? Any other items that commission would like to discuss? We're out of agenda items here, so if not, we're adjourned.